So you want to know about this Mayhem Arsonistic Chip 15? I gotta say, when I first saw that name, I thought it was like straight out of some kind of sci-fi movie.
Well, it is from a game.
Oh, really?
And it does involve melting things with fire.
So this isn't just some made-up thing for our deep dive today.
Oh.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. Now I got to know more.
Yeah.
What kind of game are we talking about here?
So based on what you've given me, it looks like it's from some sort of MMORPG.
Okay.
Massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
MMORPG, got it.
And this chip, this Mayhem Arsonistic Chip 15, it's a hot commodity in this game.
Okay, so MMORPG, hot commodity, but like, why all the secrecy? Is this thing like some legendary item or something? Help me understand what makes this chip so special.
Well, first of all, just getting one is a challenge.
Okay.
Apparently, you need 110,000 Mayhem tokens.
110,000.
Plus 2 rare ones.
Oh, wow.
And even then, it looks like it's out of stock right now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So you're telling me 110,000 Mayhem tokens, 2 rare ones, and it's still out of stock?
Yeah.
This is starting to sound less like a video game item and more like some kind of like a quest for the Holy Grail or something.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the mystique.
It does, it does. And, you know, basic economics, supply and demand, that just makes it even more desirable. But come on, spill the beans.
What does this chip actually do that makes it so sought after?
From what I can gather, it's all about pure burn damage.
Okay.
Like setting your enemies on fire, just watching them slowly sizzle.
All right, that sounds kind of cool, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
But how does that actually work in a game? Is it like a one-hit instant fry kind of thing? Or is there more to it?
No, it's not about like these big bursts of damage. Think of it more as like a strategic burn.
Okay.
You set your enemy on fire and then they just continuously take damage while you're free to do other things.
Ew, so it's like this constant pressure, you know, weakening them while you're strategizing your next move.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, you know, when it comes to games, we all want to know the numbers. How much damage are we actually talking about here?
Well, to figure that out, we need to talk about amps.
Amps?
Amplifiers.
Okay.
Basically, they enhance the chip's abilities, and it looks like the Mayhem Kinetic Amplifier 5 is the top choice if you want to maximize that damage output.
All right, Mayhem Kinetic Amplifier 5.
Got it.
So with this amp, how much damage can this chip actually dish out?
The data suggests a DPS of 45.
DPS damage per second.
Yeah.
So 45 damage every second. That's respectable, I guess.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, I was expecting something a little more, you know, explosive.
Yeah.
Given all this hype and the effort it takes to even get this chip.
It's a solid number, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But it's not exactly setting the world on fire.
Yeah, true. But I have a feeling there's more to this story, right? There's got to be something that makes this chip truly stand out.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This is where it gets interesting. Where this chip really shines is when you start adding damage enhancers.
Damage enhancers. Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
What are those and how do they work?
Think of them like little power-ups that amplify the burn damage even further.
Okay.
So the more enhancers you add, the more intense the burn becomes.
So it's like turning up the heat, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing the potential here, but before we get too excited about stacking like a dozen of these things, what about the cost? I mean, I'm guessing these enhancers aren't free, right?
You're right to consider that damage enhancers, they do have their own cost.
Right.
Both in terms of in-game currency and potentially real-world money, depending on how the game's economy works.
Okay, so there's a cost-benefit analysis to consider. Yeah. That makes sense.
All right.
But let's just say hypothetically that money's no object. I'm talking unlimited budget for damage enhancers. What kind of insane DPS could we achieve with this chip?
Well, if we were to just go all out and equip 10 damage enhancers,
10, okay.
The DPS would skyrocket to a staggering 88.
88 DPS. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's enough to melt any boss in the game.
Right.
Suddenly that price tag doesn't seem so outrageous anymore.
It's a significant investment, no doubt, but the potential for destruction is undeniable.
It is. Imagine facing down some formidable boss and you just unleash this continuous wave of burn damage. You're whittling down their health while you're strategically maneuvering, avoiding their attacks.
Exactly.
This is making me want to jump into the game and try out this chip for myself.
Yeah.
But before I do that, let's talk about the chip's efficiency. Our research mentioned that it sits at a pretty impressive 80%, but I'm not entirely sure what that means in practical terms.
That's a great point. Efficiency is a crucial factor when we're talking about these kinds of items.
Okay.
In essence, it refers to how effectively the chip converts energy into damage.
Okay.
So an 80% efficiency rating means that 80% of that energy input is being translated into that fiery burn damage we've been talking about.
Okay, so the higher the efficiency, the less energy wasted.
Right.
meaning we can keep that burn going for longer without draining our resources too quickly. All right, so we've got a powerful chip with a high efficiency rating, but I'm curious, is this burn damage a single target effect? Or can it spread to multiple enemies, like wildfire?
The research indicates that the burn damage from this chip is indeed focused on a single target.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that like a widespread burn would be more effective, especially when you're facing a horde of enemies.
It depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually more strategic to focus your firepower.
Okay.
Imagine you're surrounded by a group of enemies. Instead of trying to spread the burn and weaken them all gradually, you could focus all of your firepower on a single target, eliminate them quickly, and reduce the overall threat.
Ah, I see your point.
Yeah.
It's like a divide and conquer strategy.
Exactly.
You take out one enemy swiftly with that concentrated burn, then you move on to the next one. Thin out the herd until you're victorious.
Precisely. And while that burn is ticking away on your target, you're free to use other attacks or abilities, maximizing your damage output, controlling the flow of battle.
Okay, I'm starting to understand the strategic depth here. It's not just about raw power, it's about that tactical advantage it provides.
Yeah.
But hold on a second. We've been so focused on like the mechanics of the chip, we haven't really addressed the big question. What does all this mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about this seemingly obscure piece of virtual technology?
That's a great question. On the surface might seem like we're just geeking out over some video game trivia.
Right.
But there's a deeper lesson here.
Okay.
One that transcends the digital world and applies to our everyday lives.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This deep dive into the Mayhem Arsonistic Chip 15 has been an exercise in critical thinking, problem-solving, strategic analysis.
Okay.
We've taken a seemingly complex and obscure topic and broken it down into manageable pieces, understanding its components, its strengths, and its potential applications.
And those are skills that are valuable in any field, right? Whether you're a gamer, a student, an entrepreneur, or just navigating the complexities of life. The ability to analyze information, assess risks and rewards, and make strategic decisions. That's essential for success.
Exactly. So even if you never set foot in this particular virtual world,
Right.
the thought processes we've engaged in during this deep dive are transferable to countless real-world scenarios.
I love that. We've gone from discussing a virtual chip to unlocking valuable life skills. That's the beauty of learning, isn't it? You never know where it might lead you. But before we get too carried away here, we're actually running out of time for this segment of the deep dive.
Okay,
But we still have so much more to explore. So you ready to crank up the heat?
let's do it.
See how much damage this chip can really put out?
Absolutely. Let's talk damage enhancers. Break it down for me. How much of a boost are we talking about with each enhancer we add?
Each enhancer seems to give you a consistent increase of about 4 DPS.
Okay.
It's like a linear progression. Okay, I'm following you.
Yeah.
So one enhancer bumps the DPS up by 4, 2 enhancers would be 8, and so on.
Right.
That's pretty impressive. But hold on a second before we get too carried away and start stacking a dozen of these things.
Yeah.
What about the cost? I'm guessing these enhancers aren't free, right?
You're right to think about that. Damage enhancers do have a cost.
Okay.
Both in in-game currency
Yeah.
and potentially real-world money,
Wow.
depending on how the game economy works.
So there's a cost-benefit analysis to consider here.
Right.
That makes sense. But let's just say hypothetically that PEDs are no object.
Okay.
I'm talking unlimited budget for damage enhancers.
Yeah.
What kind of insane DPS could we reach with this chip?
Well, if we were to go all out and equip 10 damage enhancers,
Okay,
the
10.
DPS would jump to an incredible 88.
88 DPS. Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's enough to melt any boss in the game.
Right.
Suddenly that 48,000 PED price tag doesn't seem so outrageous.
No, it's a big investment for sure.
Yeah.
But the potential for destruction is undeniable.
It is, imagine facing down some formidable boss and you just unleash this continuous wave of burn damage. You're whittling down their health while you're strategically maneuvering and dodging their attacks.
Right.
You've sold me. This chip sounds incredible. But
Yeah.
before we wrap things up, I have one more question. Our research mentioned that this chip has an efficiency rating of 80%.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what that means in practical terms. Can you explain that?
Sure. So efficiency is basically how well the chip converts energy into damage.
Okay.
So an 80% efficiency rating means that 80% of the energy you put into it is actually being used to create that burn damage.
Got it. So the higher the efficiency, the less energy wasted.
Right.
Meaning we can keep that burn going for longer
Exactly.
without having to worry about our energy reserves.
Exactly.
That's awesome. But I do have one final question.
Okay.
Is this burn damage a single target effect? or can it spread to multiple enemies?
It looks like it's just single target.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So to our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop learning.
Well said.
Never know what you might discover.
And that's it for today's deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the world around us.